Hello, my name is Billie Chang, and in this video I will be talking about Russia's annexation of Crimea and the Russo-Ukrainian War. Firstly, the Republic of Crimea is located on a peninsula to the south of Ukraine. On its east lies the Kerch Strait, which is a small body of water that separates the Crimean Peninsula from Russia. According to the region's textbook, once Crimea was annexed by Russia, Russia began the process of constructing a Kerch Strait bridge so that the Crimean city of Taman would be connected to the Russian city of Krasnodar. This effectively allows Russia to access the Crimean Peninsula and not have to go through the Ukraine. Russia found Crimea desirable firstly because it already had claims in there, holding a naval base in the Crimean city of Sevastopol. According to an article published by the scholarly journal Russia and Global Affairs by Ivan Krastev, titled What Does Russia Want and Why?, maintaining control over Sevastopol could prove strategic because access to the Crimean Peninsula would allow for the nation to have access to both the Black Sea and Mediterranean region. According to a BBC News article titled Ukraine Protests After Yanukovych EU Deal Rejection, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine escalated in November of 2013's former president, Viktor Yanukovych, rejected a deal proposing increased Ukraine connections to the European Union. The agreement, had Yanukovych signed, would have opened Ukraine borders to the increased travel and trade goods. Russia was in large opposition to Ukraine's move westward, and Russia's current president, Vladimir Putin, ultimately swayed Yanukovych to not carry out with the EU deal. After Yanukovych's decision, thousands of members of the general public protested in the Ukrainian cities of Kiev and Lviv. The EU and the General West supported these protesters, even though Russia clearly supported Yanukovych. Eventually, protests against the Ukrainian government ran Yanukovych out of his own country in February 2014. Also in 2014, Russia annexed Crimea in what was known as an illegal move because it violated the norms of international law, according to the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. The involvement into Crimea began in March 2014 when Russia sent troops to occupy the Crimean Peninsula under the claim that it was protecting its port in Sevastopol. According to an article published by History.com titled Why Russia Wants Crimea, Putin also continued to justify this illegal annexation by claiming that much of Crimea was home to ethnic Russians. At the same time, Russian-backed separatists emerged and occupied Ukrainian territory in the east. These separatists were also known as pro-Russian rebels, thus furthering conflict between these so-called rebels and the military of Ukraine. In August of 2014, the Russian military was sent into eastern Ukraine to support its rebels, and according to a video published by Vox, over 9,000 people have died because of this conflict as of 2017. The situation created international coverage after supposed pro-Russian separatist rebels shot down Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 that was flying over Ukraine. Aboard the plane, there were 298 people, all of whom unfortunately died. In October of 2015, it was determined that a Russian missile was to blame for the tragedy. This animation presented by the BBC News further demonstrates the extent of the missile's destruction. Biersack and O'Lear, in the article titled The Geopolitics of Russia's Annexation of Crimea, Narratives, Identity, Silences, and Energy, assert that the Russian government annexed Crimea to 1. Have control of the Black Sea Fleet in Crimea, which is correlated to the port city of Sevastopol, and 2. Have possession of the Ukraine's energy potential in the Black Sea through hydrocarbon resources. For context, the Black Sea Fleet is comprised of around 40 active-duty combat ships, and Russia has since stated that it intends to increase the amount of military units placed at Crimea, including the construction of new ships and submarines. The Crimean Peninsula used to be populated by Tatars, a group History.com defines in their article Why Russia Wants Crimea as Turkic speakers. Tatars were originally residents of the Ottoman Empire, but were eventually deported by Stalin in 1944 to Siberia and Central Asia. In order to repopulate the area, a number of ethnic Russians were brought into Crimea. Eventually, Nikita Khrushchev allocated Crimea to Ukraine under the assumption that it would allow better assimilation of the Russian populace on the Crimean Peninsula. Alice Popovici continues to write in her History.com article that the Crimean Tatars have been driven out by the Russians through, quote, harassment, arrest, and imprisonment. To the very left is a picture published by History.com showing Russian paramilitaries in Crimea, and to the very right is a picture of a group of Crimean Tatars hoping to protest the annexation of Crimea by the Russians. This picture was published by Al Jazeera, a television news broadcast network from the Middle East. Above is a diagram published by Insider.com showing the decline of the Tatar population in Crimea. You can see that the Russians have come to dominate in recent years. Now, I've gone through what I believe are the most important events and most important background information in order to understand the basis of Russia's annexation of Crimea. But here's a quick timeline of everything that has occurred between the Ukraine and Russia since 2013, according to a CNN article written by Nick Thompson titled Ukraine's War, Everything to Know About How We Got Here. In November 2013, former President Yanukovych does not sign the EU deal, and protests erupt and escalate. In 2014 of February, Yanukovych flees to Ukraine, and in March, Vladimir Putin sends Russian paramilitary to Crimea. In June, newly appointed Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko signs the EU agreement Yanukovych hadn't, and in July, Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 is shot down. In September, a ceasefire is agreed upon by Ukrainian military and pro-Russian separatists, but by November, Russia violates the ceasefire after crossing the Ukrainian border with military tanks and troops. This portion of the timeline highlights important developments from 2015 to today, according to the Global Conflict Tracker. In February, the West gets involved through a ceasefire agreement created with the help of Germany and France. In June of 2015, the EU aimed sanctions at Russia for its attacks against Crimea and Ukraine. In December 2016, conflict escalates after Russia claims Ukraine violated international agreements after Ukrainian military displays missile launches in Crimea. And in January 2018, Trump's presidency imposes sanctions on those involved in the conflict. Today, in April 2021, current Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky seeks NATO membership as a way to end the conflict, and still, Russian troops continue to mobilize along the Ukrainian border. As of today, based on this infographic provided by the Global Conflict Tracker, 10,300 people have been killed, 24,000 people have been injured, around 1.5 million have been internally displaced, and the front line stretches 280 miles since the conflict escalated in 2014. It seems that despite many attempts at ceasefire agreements and involvement by the Western political sphere, the conflict between the Ukraine and Russia has yet to die down. Thank you.